morning, lovely people. How are you today? I hope you're well. Oh, I'm back in the garden. Yay! I realised it's been 2 weeks since I've done any gardening. Gardening? Garden. You know what I mean. I have, of course, been to the garden in that time, but I've been here with friends, family, nattering, and just enjoying the space. I've been here to harvest, but I haven't been here to do any work as such. Now, I was thinking about this walking down here this morning. I don't feel behind on any jobs. I feel like everything's sort of where it should be for this time of year. But I am feeling a little bit of time pressure because, as I mentioned in a video a couple of days ago or whatever, the weather has changed. I've got a cardigan on this morning. I had this on and my hoodie, and I've got a vest underneath too. It's definitely autumn, definitely chilly. The temperature in the shed when I've just arrived now, it says 15 degrees centigrade. That's 60 Fahrenheit. That's in the shed. Outside it's a couple of degrees cooler. So why is the weather putting a bit of time pressure on me? So a couple of things. The temperature last night was really quite chilly, about 6 degrees. We're due to go back into double figures for our overnight temperatures. So I've got a little bit of wiggle room with the temperature, but it's the time of year when I need to make sure that the tender, that was the word I was looking for, the tender things, I'm regularly picking, and then if it looks like there's going to be a real drop in the temperature and a frost, get them all picked. So by that I'm talking tomatoes, peppers, squash. Everything else in the garden now, so brassicas, parsnips, meagre handful of carrots, the chard, the celery, they're all pretty hardy. I'm not worried about those. It's those sort of soft, tender summer veggies that we think of, really. So that's kind of on the side burner. It's not on the back burner, it's on the side burner. I'm ready to go if the weatherman or woman says we're going to get frost. Whether we've got a frost due or not, I've got a ton more tomatoes to pick. Yay! I might do that today. It's always that thing of have to plan ahead. If I pick them today, can I process them today, or at least tomorrow? So that's one time pressure, is the temperature, the nighttime temperature. The big time pressure, and this is my absolute priority today, we've got a lot of rain due. Now, over the last few months, the weather forecast has been, frankly, rubbish. There have been so many occasions when we've been forecast rain and it just hasn't happened. However, at this time of year, I'm more inclined to believe that it will happen. So in another couple of days or so, what day is it? Saturday today. From next Wednesday, it looks like we've got at least a week, if not 10 days of rain every day. Some days it looks like it's going to be raining all day. Other days it's rain at night, clear in the day, whatever. So with that in mind, my absolute priority today is to harvest dried stuff, or stuff that I want to store dry. So for example, calendula seeds. I think that's going to be another video though. But mainly the beans, the dried beans. It's been an absolute terrible year for beans. I've mentioned this a few times. Probably at some point there's Rusty going up to explore for more food. Yeah, probably at some point in August I was mentioning it, how the beans, they dried overnight, it seemed. And in some cases they dried even before the beans were formed. So it has been awful for beans this year. So I want to make sure that the few I do have, I grab them now. because they've been dry and drying on the vines for weeks and weeks and weeks now. So we have had a couple of days of rain already. That came as a bit of a surprise. If I'd known that rain was coming, I would have done this harvest earlier. Never mind. So that they probably will be a bit damp, but I'm going to talk more as we go through about drying and storing, long-term storing, as in for months, both in terms of for seed saving and for eating. So yes, crack on with that. And I thought, actually, while I'm at it today, I might as well just get all my bean poles and my structures down as well. You know, the longer the poles are sitting in the ground, if the ground is wet, the more likely they are to start rotting off. And that's how you end up going from 8-foot poles to 7-foot, 6-foot, over the years. So I'm going to try and look after that today too. It's going to be quite a long session today, I think. Because also, for instance, where the Coco de Pampol are, where they're in that big bed, once they're out, I then need to think about protecting that bed over the winter, feeding and protecting. So I'll be looking for material to put on it in terms of compost, mulchy sort of stuff, and whoopla, getting it covered in cardboard. That will come later. But the other thing today, and this way is a little bit of a time pressured day. So we've got that rain coming Wednesday. Monday, I'm never in the garden because Monday is my running about for other folk round here day. Tomorrow I'm not going to be here, and it's quite possible I can't get down on Tuesday, so it looks like today might be my only day before the rain comes to do this. But it's also a community work day today, and you all know by now I'm a firm believer in community effort. We've got quite a lot of jobs to get on with. That's partly because where we would normally have a community work day once a month, and for anyone who's new to the channel or have missed it before, when we have our community work day, it's when all the plot holders, they don't work on their plot, they work on all the communal spaces. So, for example, we mow all the communal grass, we prune the communal orchard trees, we fix any of the, on the perimeter where we've got fences, we fix any broken fences. We go around litter picking, because litter does blow in here. At the moment we've got a new project underway where we've got our communal sort of tea shed, if you like. It's more than a shed, it's bigger than a shed. It's like a hut, really, where we've got our kitchen facilities and what have you. We're actually developing an area outside of that, a seating area outside of it with hard standing. So that's underway. And obviously this year, with you know what, oh goodness, won't it be fun? Excuse me, in a couple of years' time when none of us are talking about COVID. Yeah, because of COVID, all the work parties right up until the end of July were all cancelled. Just trying to keep people separate, especially when we were in that initial lockdown. But now that we're out of that like extreme lockdown, we're trying to get back on with things. Obviously being careful, being socially distanced, So it means there's quite a lot to catch up on. So I'm in a real dilemma because I really, really, really need to get these beans in today. But I really, really, really want to help with the community work too. So I'm just going to have to divvy the day out and say, right, if I do at least 2 hours for the community, that will be good. And then the rest of it will be the beans. Just before we go out, because I'm going to go out and start picking the beans. Just a little tip. Obviously with the beans, they come in all sorts of shapes, sizes and colours. Black, white, red, mottled, stripy, purple, large, small, round, kidney shaped, what have you. So in theory, I could just put them all in one big sack to take home. However, excuse me, tickle. However, some of them, excuse me one moment, as you were, Yes. However, some of my beans are very, very similar looking, and they're so dry that they're starting to burst open. So I'm going to have to pick some beans off the floor, I think, where they've popped open, as they would in nature. That's how they... Oh, I saw this lavender everywhere. That's how they spread their seed. So, for example, the Trail of Tears, which is a climber, and the Rocking Core, which is a bush, look so similar. They're both small, they're both black, they're both fairly straight. There's not much of that kidney shape to them. Very similar. The Coco Sophie and the Coco de Pampol, they are both very similar. They're small, white, round seeds. The Coco Sophie are just a smidge bigger. So, because of those similarities, I will make sure that any that are similar, I'm going to put in separate bags and label them, just so that I don't make a mistake. I'll plant them all next year anyway, but what I don't want to happen is I plant my Rocking Core bush beans against poles and they don't grow, and I accidentally plant my Trail of Tears thinking they're Rocking Core as a bush, and then they'll be flopping all over the floor. So, yes, without further ado, is it without further ado? Yeah, I think let's just go and start on this pick, because there's a lot. It really does suddenly feel much later in the year. The sun is so low. It's 10 o'clock already. I just checked my clock. 10 o'clock, goodness me. So I'm starting in the Trail of Tears. Let me see if I can demonstrate. There is a rattle going on. They are pretty well dry. Now, what I'm going to do, normally, quite often what I'll do with all my beans, I pick them like this, and then where I've got my onion drying rack in the shed, I put I've got some Hessian sacks or spread some newspaper across the top just to stop beans falling through. I'd spread them all out there to do a bit more drying before taking them home to pod. However, two things. One, because I was so late getting the onions out, they're still all through the onion rack. Plus, there's all the lavender and some other bits and pieces of seed saving. That's a chilly breeze, my goodness. So I've got no space in there anyway. But also, I'm just concerned because we have had so much rain in the last 2 days that they're a bit. I'm picking them a bit damper than I normally would. So let a breeze go. So rather than drying them in their pods, I'm just going to get them all home, get them out of the pods straight away and spread them out. So if there's any residual dampness on the outsides of the pods, hopefully it won't have, seeped in. But if there is any dampness, just get rid of it straight away. So that's why one of the reasons I was saying I don't think I'll be able to make it back to the garden tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm going to be podding all day. Now the other thing you can do, if you haven't had rain and your pods are quite dry, but you don't have time like I'm doing now, just picking everything off. It's easy with bush beans and climbing beans, but you can just take the whole plant out, the whole vine out, just hang it in your shed to dry, literally the whole plant. So if you're worried about the weather changing and thinking, oh crikey, got all this rain due, I don't have time to hand pick every single pod off, just grab the whole plant out and get it somewhere that's dry. I love it. I love it. I think I think one of the reasons I like the bean harvest, it's rather like the squash harvest. It's sort of, it really denotes the kind of the passing of the year, the passing of the seasons. You know, all summer we've tended these little plants, we've watered them, we've hoped for the best. When they were little teeny tiny plants, we hoped that the slugs wouldn't come. We've been nurturing them for months, and now, picking day, harvest day, it's the reward, isn't it? So I love this day every year. I think it's that thing as well, it's partly my neat freak thing, that, you know, obviously at this stage, look, the frames, the poles, they're all bare, all the foliage is gone, it's all looking a bit scruffy and tatty, let's face it. So, can you hear that crunch? They are dry. So, by getting this done, it's that thing of, I'm getting ready to move into a new season. I'm getting this lot tidied up, packed away for another year. And thoughts turn to winter and winter food, all the brassicas, all the stews and the pies, all the gorgeous, rich, beany dishes to be had over the winter. Yeah, I do love this day every year, despite the fact that it also represents, it really finally is the end of summer. There's no two ways about it. Just one other thing, quickly. I think that's the lot from here. It's such a pretty colour. I don't know if the colour will pick up because it's so bright today. Let's turn it that way. You see that gorgeous purple. I'm literally just going to pick and pod everything. Pick today, pod tomorrow. Some of the beans are going to be really tiny, and they'll suggest to me that they weren't at maturity before drying, so I won't save those for seed. I'm looking for the biggest, plumpest, most mature beans for my seeds for next year. So any of the little scrappy stragglers, they'll be set aside and they'll be my stored dried beans for eating. Picking all of them, getting the poles down, picking all the dwarf ones as well. It is going to take me all day, but how great. The sun's shining, some of the birds are singing, brilliant. They're going to pick themselves though, are they? So yeah, let me crack on. I'll catch up with you in a second when I've harvested.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, ça va?
Ça va, merci.
Bien. Okay, well this is where I'm at so far. This is the rocking core. Most, as you can see, have dried. There's a few, just the last few. This was that second sowing, which I can have fresh. So that's the rocking core. And then up on the table, this is all the coco de pan boil. Then I'm just going to take you in the shed. It's actually quite noisy out here because we're still working, doing our community working party. Opla, come on, old lady. So I've got Gigantes. This is Coco Sophie. See what I mean about they're already jumping out of their pods. So Coco Sophie, Bolotti, and Trail of Tears. Let's move the tripod. Oh, that, by the way, that's calendula seed. Need to get more today. So you can see this, my friends, is not self-sufficiency in beans this year. However, there's enough there for seed and for eating. So, I don't want to show your poppy botty. Are you going to do the podding? Are you going to help with the podding? On those 3 tomatoes. I was just, when I was grabbing the rock and core, this is a self-seeder, and beautiful. They're so ripe. Sorry, Poppykins, they're so ripe they actually were falling off the plant. Right, I need to have a little sit down and turn this camera around for a minute. What do you think, Poppy? You're in trouble up there now, aren't you, baby girl? Right, no body shots. Just before I sit down and turn the camera around, this is why the beans are coming home. Lavender. Lavender. Onions. More lavender. More lavender. This was some cocoa de pampol I pulled out to make way for the fennel. Celery seed. Loads more lavender. This is a couple of bags of packaging along with a sack of it here. This came from a neighbour friend recycling her packaging through me, so that needs to come home with me for the shop. So yeah, it's a little bit of a full, busy shed at the moment, but it's a very happy sight. Oopla. And also, I hope I'll get time today. I'm going to give all my onions a squeeze, and actually some of them can come home, I think, now. Oh, yay. Oh, that's better. I needed to sit down. I've just done my community effort. I really wasn't sure how much I'd get done today just because of the old body. It's very frustrating. I'd love to do more, but, you know, I've done an hour and a bit, which is good. And I was mowing, doing a lot of mowing. So yay for some grass clippings. So a quick word, well, probably not a quick word knowing me. 2 things. One, oh, let's get comfy. Oh, these are rubbish today. Just a word on the beans. Let me grab a couple. Oh, top of Vivi's head. Drying and storing now. So, oh, actually, just to say, mine's all over the place. I've just shown you there's the wheelbarrow full of rock and core and the table is full of cocoa de pampol. It makes much more sense to me. It's a sort of an ergonomic thing. It's easier for me to just pull the whole plants out, just go along the row, boom, 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 pull the plants out, bring them back to the table, and I can sit, so I'm not bent, I'm not straining my knees, and pull all the pods off. Pods will come home, and all that dry plant material, I'll now chop up, chop, 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 chop. This is what I mean about this is the kind of day things are going to take a little while, but that's fine. It's in my head today that it's just beans. If I do more, great. If I don't, it's not a problem. So all that material will get chopped up. Now it's all really, really dry material. The idea is to do another sort of crop and drop like I did with the chickpeas. It'll go straight back onto that bed. That bed is already covered in a lot of leaf litter, the foliage from the plants, which isn't quite so dry. Now, ideally, I don't want to just pile up a load of dry material because it's not going to do much. So here's the great thing today. You know, I'm a smart cookie. I plan these things. Where I've done all that mowing, I've had 3 big I've emptied the hopper that collects the clippings on the back of the mower. I've emptied it 3 times. So I've got really a huge amount of grass clippings. Great. So what I'll do is all this material that I'll chop, I'll go chop, chop, chop into the barrow, into the wheelbarrow, barrow that back up to the bed, grab an armful of the grass clippings, dump it into the wheelbarrow, get it all mixed up, get it onto that bed, and I think I've got a bit of cardboard already I can use to get that bed covered. There's some really lovely moisture in there from the last couple of days of rain, so hopefully that moisture, this layer of crop and drop, and the cardboard. It'll hold the moisture in. It'll be a great environment for the worms. It'll be covered and protected for winter. It'll be the first bed covered for winter. It seems too soon. So, oh, and the other thing I wanted to say about compost and putting compost on the beds at this time of year. I've obviously used a whole compost bin's worth of compost already to mulch 1, 2, 3, 3.5 beds. I've mulched with the compost that was in my bin that I've managed to make since from the beginning of May through to the end of August. I managed to get about 1 bin's worth. Great. The other bin, I've already started my next lot, and that will just be used for any of the beds that now become bare. One of the issues at this time of year is when we're making our compost, a lot of the material is brown, it's dead. It's our plants have gone over, they've died, they've dried up. So we're ending up with a lot of brown material. And this is one of the reasons I let, I'm talking about nasturtiums, I do let them go rampant. They self-seed, they're everywhere. If they're threatening to suffocate my vegetable plants, of course I have them out. But as the season goes on and I've harvested and harvested and harvested, I just leave them to go rampant everywhere because they make a great bit of green compost for this time of year. So over the next few weeks, as beds get emptied and I chop up that dried dead plant material, I'll literally grab a nasturtium plant, chop it up, mix it in, so I've still got that green and brown mix. Now, just moving on to, oh, bones, drying and storing the beans. As I said earlier, I'm going to take all the beans home in their pods and I'm going to get them podded straight away, just because, I mean, they sound really dry and rattly, but because of that rain we had, there could be a little bit of dampness in there, so I'm going to get them all podded, all spread in single layers on my trays at home, and they'll take turns to rotate through that front window of mine, which is really warm. Get them thoroughly dry. I'll probably give them 2 or 3 weeks of drying. Then when I'm sure that they're all absolutely dry, by then I'll have siphoned some off for seed saving and the rest will be for eating. But the next stage I'll do, whether it's for eating or seed saving, when they're all completely dry, I put them in glass jars or Tupperware, whatever you've got. I'll put them in my freezer for 3 days, which will kill off any bugs in them, but not harm the seed, so long as they're bone dry. After 3 days in the freezer, they come out. I don't open them. I don't want more moist air in there. Just leave them entirely alone to come back to room temperature. Then, obviously, the ones that are for seed saving, I'll set aside, label them as my seeds for next year, and the ones that are for eating, I'll decant into my big glass storage jars at home and enjoy tucking into them over the winter. So, yeah, like I said, lots and lots to do today. First things first, get all these pods off the plants, get the plants chopped up and chopped back on the beds. Then, if there's time and energy, I am going to, sorry, cat hair, I'm going to start taking down some of the bean poles today, where I've got the gigantes. There are still a few of them producing. I'm not sure how much they'll come to, but because they're green, they won't, this coming week of rain that we're about to have, it's not going to do them any harm because they're green. So I'll leave the gigantes in for now, but yeah, like I say, if I've got time, the arches where I had the Helder, Trail of Tears, Bolotti, etc., they can all come down today and get stored away. Oh, it's the beginning of the end. It's not the beginning of the end, it's the beginning of the end of one season and the start of another. And yeah, I love it. I kind of love this kind of it's good to have a bit of change in the garden, isn't it? It's the same when we're sort of in April and May and the structures are all going up. It's like, wow, yeah, change. The garden looks new and different again. Woohoo! And I have the same feelings at this time of year. So I might as well get on with that today. Last year, it was really late when I got the poles down. It was sometime in November. It was ridiculous. I'm determined to be more on the ball this year with getting the beds mulched and tucked up, covered up for winter sooner. And I've just thought of something else I need to do that's a harvest. So I think for now I'm going to leave it there with you all. I'm just shuffling around. I've been given presents again. I'm very... This is great. I've got a great deal. See this? Look at this lovely cardboard box. So my neighbour Joy, she of the Churchill black seeds. Someone was asking about this the other day, saying, did she mean black turtle? No, I've asked her today. It's definitely Churchill black. She got them years ago, originally, from a little old old walled garden that's no longer in existence, sadly. But yeah, they're definitely Churchill black, or black Churchill. Anyway, she is an artist, and she'd ordered a load of these boxes for sending her artwork away. She has an online shop too. I think she does. I'd have to check, because it'd be nice to share details. Anyway, she's got these, and they're too small for her. They're too small for me, for my bunting, because the webbing I use is kind of extra strong and thick, so they won't fit. But they may fit my lavender bags. So, brilliant. So as a swapsy, we'd been joking the previous week about beans and her not being able to eat them, the bean, she eats the pods, because of their whole... And I mentioned to her about the winter savoury. So when she gave me these today, I said, what can I give you in exchange? Firstly, I said, can I give you some money? She said, no, of course not. So I said, I'd like to give you something in exchange. So she has exchanged these for, I'm going to grow for her some winter savoury for her to try with beans. See if that works for her. So I've written that down because I'll need to remember to order some seeds for that for next year. And my neighbour next door has just given me some lovely incense. This is the incense they use in the garden. I'm always commenting how lovely it smells. So they've given me a little box and it says, for you. Isn't that sweet? Yes, I have the loveliest neighbours. And yes, as I'm always saying, I am spoilt. Right, lots to do, lots to still get on with. So I'm going to say cheerio to all of you. I hope you're enjoying harvesting still, for those of you with a climate mild enough to do so. And I do hope for those of you who pretty much have to pack your winter up for the entire garden, I hope you're finding fun things to get stuck into indoors. Alright my lovelies, I'll see you again really soon. Hopefully, possibly in the garden again before too long, because like I said just 2 seconds ago, I've remembered something I need to harvest. But until then, please take care of yourselves, look after each other, be well, be safe, be happy. See you soon. Oh my goodness, this is a quick PS on the end of all that beanie stuff. So there's me chatting away in the shed to you, and I didn't notice. I've been left another gift on my table. Let me show you. Let me bring you round. Oh my goodness. So there we go. The cocoa de pampol for me to get stuck into. But look at this. Isn't that the prettiest bunch of carrots you ever did see? Oh my goodness. Quickly, let's whiz back in here because it's noisy and windy out there. You see? That makes me want to cry. That sounds really stupid. It's the simplest thing, isn't it? A gift of some veggies, but that's really touched me. That's really, really touched me. Honestly, I'm so lucky with this. The whole site is so, I think it's beautiful and pretty, and it's quiet and enclosed and lovely and secret. But the site is so much more than how it looks. It's the people, and I really, really have met the most wonderful people here, made the most wonderful friends, and to just be left a little present like that is so beautiful. Let's all be beautiful to each other. Honestly, I could cry. I'm not going to. Right. Now I'm going to go and start getting stuck into that bean harvest. And I really am going to say cheerio properly now. See you again soon. Bye everyone.